Good Sunday morning, everyone. Schuyler Callihan here on Between the Ears, the morning after, and today I've got Eugene, Napoleon with me. We're going to further break down Mountaineers' 32-28 win over the Kansas Jayhawks, talk the bigger picture as we head here into the bye week. So, Gene, let's just start off with yesterday. Wasn't pretty. You know, they they were trailing by 11 points with 5 minutes to go. And I think it's kind of up for debate how you want to take that win. You could look at it as that was just an ugly win and there's not much to be excited about. Or you could kind of turn it and say, well, this is exactly the situation that Pitt was in the backyard brawl and made the comeback. And now a week after you had that happen to you, you overcame some adversity. You did the exact same thing. You could have folded when you were down 11 with 5 minutes to go. Instead, they found a way to come back and win the game. Which way are you taking this game?
The latter. The latter. I'm looking at it. They learned something from the Pitt loss, obviously. And you're right. They could have folded being down 11. So you learn something from every win or every loss. If you're a good coach, if you're a good staff, if you're a good team. And I think they took a step forward with learning how to bounce back from adversity, deal with some of the ups and downs that a football game is going to bring you. And they did just that. So now, put it this way, had they not come back, had they faltered latter part of that game and would have lost that game, now you were in a situation where you got two games where you didn't learn anything, you didn't correct your mistakes in those adverse times, and you lost.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look at the latter. I'm going to say, look, they bounced back from some things that could have lost them that football game late in the game, and they rallied to win. So I'm going to look at it that way. You know, it's not the glass half empty for me. It's the glass is half full.
Interesting. Well, I'll just to make it interesting or more of a heated conversation, I'll go the other way. I'll say that it's a glass half empty for me because it was ugly. The defense still didn't show a whole lot. They did better against the pass, but this is against a run-first team in Kansas,
Right.
and they ran the ball for 248 yards and 3 touchdowns on 46 carries. That's a little over 5 yards a touch. I get that's their bread and butter. That's what they're going to do. But they could have I think they still are misfitting some of their run fits. They're not tackling as good as I thought that they would coming into this year. There's a lot of issues defensively, and I think that's still a major concern. But to me, I'm actually kind of starting to become more concerned about this offense because they are turning the ball over at an alarming rate. All of last season, Garrett Green had 4 interceptions. He's had 4 interceptions through the first 4 games of this season. And he's not completing passes at a high rate. They talked about it all offseason, how that's where he's going to make his biggest improvement, his biggest jump. He's going to be a 60% or better passer. Right now, through 4 games, a month into the year, he's sitting at 56%, only 3% better than he was a year ago, and he's throwing more picks. So that's a concern. If you're not being able to take care of the football and play efficiently on the offensive side with the way this defense is playing, this could be a long year.
No, I hear what you're saying. And, facts, ring out to be very true when they're factual, right? And those are numbers. You can't lie about the numbers. But I look at it this way, too. I'm not sure if he's pressing a little bit too much, trying to make things happen because he feels as though he's in a position to where if it doesn't happen through him, it's not going to happen.
Right.
I think those situations when you have a quarterback that's pressing that early in the year and you can kind of see it through his percentages of, you got 4 picks or whatever the case may be, you're starting to see that he's not as accurate as you want him to be. Again, that's where, and this is the right time because they have a bye week where you sit him down, call him in the office, sit him down and say, listen, let's go through these first 3 games. What are you seeing? You understand what I'm saying? Like that's what you have to do. What are you seeing? And let me see if I can see through your lens what you're seeing through your passing lanes, because there's some things that you're doing that we can't continue on this track, or the latter part of the year is going to be a problem because the schedule only gets more difficult from here.
Exactly.
So that's what you have to do right now, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just have to do your 1/11th, and that's such a coach thing that everyone says at every level, just do your 111th and everything will take care of itself.
Right.
He's so talented and he's so much of a fighter and a dog and just a backyard, bulldog or whatever that term is that they used to say about Javon Carter. He's that on the football field. Like he's
Right.
talented enough, he's gritty enough and tough enough. Or if he just stays within what he's supposed to do, now obviously you don't want to rein him in too much because that's what makes him so special. You don't want to say, "Hey, Garrett, stop fighting for the extra yard," because that's who he is. But
Right.
there's also kind of a line you have to walk with that. You don't want to be too risky to where you're putting the ball in dangerous situations just because you're trying to make something happen. And even on those two final drives yesterday, like I kind of got that sense like, man, he's trying to do everything to get this team down the field and score. And I mean, he succeeded. I can't knock him for it too much, but there were times I'm like, man, Garrett, you got to get down. Like, don't take these extra unnecessary hits. Like, trust your receivers, throw the ball a little bit. But I can't knock him, like I said, because he ended up completing the comeback. But that is something to be concerned about moving forward. Now, you already mentioned it. You go into the bye week, you're 2-2, a light years difference away from what that feeling would have been if you go into this game or into this bye at 1-3, because we talked about it in the pregame show that you go 1-3, you're at that 4 game mark. There may be some thoughts popping into some kids' heads like, hey, I might sit the rest of the season out and transfer. And then at that point, you just pretty much lost the whole team in terms of where their mental space is. So at least you're going into the bye week giving yourselves a puncher's chance. And after you lost the Penn State game in an uncompetitive fashion, and after you lost the backyard brawl the way you did, getting a win is the only thing that mattered this past Saturday. So getting the 2-2, at least you're giving yourself a chance to do something in Big 12 play. And look, even if you go to Oklahoma State and lose, which probably everyone's going to be predicting you to, still not out of it. Like you're two and if that happens, you're 2-3, 1-1 in league play, and then you have 2 home games to follow.
Let me say this. No, no. You have to win at Stillwater. Let me be very clear. And the reason why, and see, here's where people kind of misconstrue this whole notion of you go there, you're 1-1. And no, 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 no. You have to compete with teams that are competitive.
Can't just
So,
beat the bottom feeders.
no, you cannot. And that will send an alarming notice to your league and to college football in general, and to the naysayers that not only can we compete, we know in order to be very good at the end of the year, we have to win these type of games on the road in a hostile environment. Period.
Yeah.
Because guess what? That's what a conference championship is going to be. That's what getting into the playoff system is going to be.
Right.
So you got to do that now. You have to build that culture right now. And no, I'm not taking. No, I expect them to go to Oklahoma State and win at Oklahoma. I'm expecting that.
Now,
And everyone in that locker room should be expecting that as well. Everybody on that coaching staff should be expecting that. This is no longer, let me be clear about this, Schuyler. This is no longer we're going to play in the upper echelon of Pop Warner football. No, man. This is big boy ball. Like, this is big time.
right.
No, I expect them to travel well. I expect the defense to get much better during this bye week. I expect them to clean up some of the stuff that they did not see that they want to see offensively and go out there and get a win. I don't care if they win by 3. I don't care if they win by a safety. I don't care if they win by 1. You have to go into Stillwater and come back to Morgantown with a freaking win. That's what I'm expecting.
If they do that, that could be the moment where you kind of look back at this later on in the year and say, that's kind of where the season started to turn because that's a massive win if you're able to get it out there. That's not an easy place to play. It's a tough team to play. They've had your number over the years. You haven't had a lot of success there. Yeah, it would certainly be. However, we brought this up a time or two before. Neil Brown versus ranked opponents as the West Virginia head coach is 2-14. Your next 3 games are against ranked opponents.
Oh,
And I don't like to say that any certain part of the schedule is going to dictate your season, but it's starting to kind of feel like that. This little 3 game upcoming stretch, you could even include Arizona after that trip out west with that. These next 3 to 4 games are 1,000% going to kind of determine whether or not you're a Big 12 contender or not. You have to go, and even like you said, it'd be nice to go and win at Oklahoma State, but if you don't, you have to go. If you lose to Oklahoma State, you have to go 2-0 in those two home games against Kansas State and Iowa State. If you if you beat Oklahoma State on the road, that could be your springboard, like I said. However, not that you want to lose at home, but it gives you a little bit of a cushion that, hey, if you lose one, it's not the end of the world because you're still 2-1 through the first 3 games.
I would look at it that way, but I'm also looking at it. Somebody said this to me. I was at a soccer game yesterday with a family member watching their daughter play. And the funny thing came up. I'm watching the game. I'm watching the West Virginia game on my phone as I'm watching her play. She's a beast. I mean, she is
Nikki
talented.
Izzo Brown, give her a call.
Yeah, she's in the 8th grade and she is ultra talented. But something came up as I'm watching the West Virginia game with a coach and an AD to the right of me, and they're talking about football. And it just so happened that they like West Virginia. So they were kind of tuned into what I was tuned into, right? And the one thing the person said that really rung in my ears was, boy, I tell you what, I remember when you guys was doing it, there was no laying down. There was no lapses in weeks. There was no expectation of a West Virginia loss. You guys are flat laying people down out there. And every time they played, we were like, yes, they're exciting. That's exciting college football.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing that with WVU nowadays. I haven't heard it in a while. And to be honest with you, I don't like it because we was always known for hard-hitting defense, the grit and grind of getting after you, and really playing lights out on offense. Special teams was even exciting back then. So culturally, this individual said to me, well, you know what? West Virginia is not as potent of a brand like you guys used to be. Man, that
Yeah.
thing stayed with me for a few hours.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It stings.
what do you mean, right? But then when I thought about it, that's what we're missing. The branding, the West Virginia branding, the Mountaineers. Like, I'm not sure where that's gone, but brother, we got to turn the page back rather quickly. And you do that
Yeah.
by winning these games. I'm no longer talking about we got to go 2-1 here and 3. Nah, man. We gotta win games, bro. That's it, Schuyler. No more of that. Oh well. If you win this game, you can lose this game. Well, if you lose this game, you got to win these two. Nah, brother.
Yeah. Hey, I'm 100% in agreement with you. Like, that's one way to look at it. When back in the Rich Rod era, the Don Nealon era, in a couple of seasons, maybe in Dana's tenure, when
Get out
you
of there.
saw West Virginia, when you saw West Virginia on the schedule, if you were an opposing team, you're like,
Yeah.
might have a little bit of a problem here. When you look at that logo now, I don't know. Most teams probably think it's a get right opportunity. That's quite the difference. And West Virginia fans, every Saturday, it's not an expecting to win feeling. You're going into it thinking, I hope they don't blow this game, or I hope they don't lose this game, or find a way to lose this game. That can't be the narrative 6 years into a coach's tenure. I'm sorry. Like, they talked about it, Neil specifically talked about it all off season of how this has got to be a team that finds a way to go from 9 wins to 10, 11 wins. So
Yeah.
he's just publicly putting out his expectations that this should be a 10, 11 win team. That's his expectations.
Right.
If you go 6-6 or 7-5 this year, I'm sorry, everything has an expiration date, Gene. Like, you can't keep kicking this can down the road in terms of being relevant just within your conference. We're not talking about nationally. Being talked about nationally will come with being successful in Big 12 play. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the state of Neil Brown is 100% going to be fired at the end of the season. However, I don't think his job's safe either. And I know they're going to talk about the negativity and all that stuff when he does his press conference. And look, there's going to be negativity surrounding this program from the media until you go out there and prove that you can beat somebody worth a damn. And that's no disrespect to Kansas. Lance Leipold's a great coach. We've talked about it umpteen times. But until you go beat Oklahoma State, you go and beat Iowa State, a Kansas State, somebody that's in the top 25, you go through a stretch where you do beat a couple of top 25 teams. And by late November, you're playing for a conference championship.
Absolutely.
That conversation is going to hang around, Neil. I'm sorry. Like it or not, there is going to be some sort of hot seat conversation around him. That's just the expectation. This program has to be in the conversation. Maybe not every single year, but I mean, once in 6 years. I mean, is that much to ask?
Schuyler, let me tell you something. You know how you shrink the noise, right? You know how you
You go and
change
win,
that
take
noise?
care of business.
Thank you. That's how you shrink. That's how you shrink the noise. If coach is upset with the negative press or the negative, then just simply go out and win games. Now, we had it, and I keep going back to yesteryear because that's the culture, that's the foundation in which we were built from.
Yeah.
Okay. So anybody sitting in that seat has to understand that. They have to. This is not a lukewarm program. It hasn't been until the last few years. Okay. So I'm feeling some sort of kind of way because I understand what we were and I want to get back to what we were. And the only way you can do that, each week, he might want to change the temperament in the locker room by turning the page and saying, you know what? I don't want anybody on social media. I don't want anybody reading how many stats they had today. No, let's shut all of that out. Let's shut this freaking door. We're going to have a coaches players meeting first, and then you guys are going to have a players meeting, only players meeting, and the coach is going to get out of here and get after it the way that you know you have to, and let's right the ship. I'm sick and tired of coming in and hearing we can't win this, we can't win that. Let's just take care of business in this locker room, hold each one of us accountable, including the coaches, and let's just go win games, man, because we're talented enough to do that.
Yeah.
But see, I'm gonna tell you what happens when you do that, Schuyler. When you put that out there, then you have to be held accountable too as the header. All right.
Absolutely.
You have to be held accountable. And a lot of times coaches they don't want that heat. They don't want that smoke, right? You want the paycheck, but you don't want the smoke that comes along with that paycheck when it comes to situations like this. Now,
Yeah.
he can right the ship by his leadership and by his ability to coach through these tough games. That's what I'm saying.
And we're not sitting here saying like the season's over. We're not sitting here saying that Neil Brown's cooked. Like there's none of that talk here. All we're simply saying is through the first 4 games of this season, there's not been an ounce of tape that they've put out there that suggests that this is a Big 12 contending team. Now, yes, they're 1-0 in league play, and Neil Brown can say that. The team can say that, hey, we're in the race. We're 1-0 in league play, and the 1-0 in the games that really matter. Yeah, but there's also a difference in mathematically being in the conversation and truly being in the conversation. Everyone's in the freaking conversation 1 week into the season, even if you lost, because you still have 8 games left to go of conference games. So, yeah, everyone's mathematically there, and they're going to be for a couple of weeks until you drop 2 or 3 games. But to firmly be in the conversation means you go to Stillwater and do what Gene says. You do something you haven't done very often here in 6 years. You beat a ranked team. You come back home. You beat another ranked team. That's how you start snowballing in the right direction. We have talked about this 5 game stretch on West Virginia's schedule ad nauseum, but the final 4 games or 3 or 4 games, I can't remember the math now. We're talking too much math. I'm not a math guy, but the end of the schedule is a soft spot. It's a spot where you can potentially start to gain some momentum to end the year. Keep your head above water throughout these next 4 weeks, and you might be there. And you can come back and say, "Hey, Gene, hey, Schuyler, we proved you wrong," and that's fine. But through 4 games right now, they have not shown that they're a Big 12 contending team yet. This is a chance to hit the reset button. Final thoughts.
Let me ask you a question. So for someone to come back, include the staff, to say we proved you wrong, being factual about what you are doesn't mean that anyone is wrong. It means that they're giving you a snapshot as to where you are at that particular period of time.
Right. Yeah, because right now, this is what you are right now. You can turn the page and be a completely different team in these final 8 games. But right now is what we're talking about.
That's it. Like I said, I don't think there's anybody in the state of New Jersey that reps West Virginia as much as I do. Are you kidding me? The pride of West Virginia, the Mountaineers live in our house, honestly. So it ain't anything towards Nick. Like I said, I don't make things personal unless it's personal. I don't know this man personally.
And we
I'm
hope
just
it works out for Neil because he's a great guy. He
great.
understands the culture.
I keep saying that. That's it. So I'm looking forward. My final thoughts is this. Yeah, I went and I told you, I got a big fat stake on the line about, between a good friend of mine that graduated from Rutgers. He goes to all the Rutgers games. Who's going to have the better record at the end of the season? I told you, West Virginia will be 10-2. That's what I told him. 10-2. Confidently, I said that.
Rutgers is
And
ahead right now.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm still holding to that. I believe that we can win every freaking game on our schedule moving forward. I really believe that's not hyperbole. I believe that. Now, my final thought is let's go get it done.
Yeah. There you go. So a lot of early heat this Sunday morning. That was a lot of fun. Getting Gene on. Wanted to do this anyways. I was going to plan to have Chris here on the show and then get Gene at some point this week, but this worked out great because we're not going to have a walkthrough game day show this week with no game to preview. Felt like it would be just college football talk, and no one really wants to do that. So, or hear us talk about that. So, we're going to take a week off from that. We'll reconvene the following Thursday as West Virginia travels to Stillwater to take on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. We will have our normally scheduled Between the Ears episodes on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. Plenty of content still to come on the site side of this as well. So be sure to follow us on X at SI_WVU and hit subscribe here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. For Eugene, Napoleon, I'm Schuyler Callihan. This has been another edition of Between the Ears. We'll see you back here on Tuesday.